Welcome to Hubcast Padalon, the podcast where two friends take an excellent adventure into the world of Hub World Eidolon.
So welcome to Hubcast Padalon. It is our inaugural podcast for the Hub World Eidolon game. I'm Alan Jones.
And I'm Stephen Kells.
And we're both members of a professional gaming team called Team Hisho. That's Japanese for certain victory. You can see our logo here on this shirt, and it says Hisho in Japanese kanji. And of course, the Great Wave of Kamigawa. Actually, I don't think it's Kamigawa. I had a long night last night, and I'm very tired, and this is energy drink right here. So, apologies for mispronouncing the artwork, but the famous woodblock painting of the Great Wave that I'm sure most people know. And that is kind of the symbol because it's pretty certain that the wave's going to come out victorious, so that's what we chose for that. We've been a professional gaming team for multiple games, from like Soulforge Fusion, which was the last one, and before that, Legend of the Five Rings card game. It was from the FFG version, which was an LCG, which is ironic because now we're going to be doing another LCG, this time with Earthborn games. So, and unironically, Andrew Navarro, the leader of Earthborn Games, was also a proponent behind the Legend of the Five Rings LCG at FFG back in the day before he went on his own way during the Asmodee era, which is still going on. I guess I would start with kind of giving you an introduction in this episode of who we are. And so we'll start with like our gaming history, because I know a lot of you are wondering, what games did you play? What brings you into Hub World? And I want to make sure I'm going to apologize, and this is the only time I'm going to mention it. So for viewers that view later on, I apologize if I come off weird. I am high-functioning autistic, so sometimes my mannerisms may be a bit off, but they come from a good place, and my mind's telling me that I should tell you right now that even though I just had this big introduction about Hisho and us being like competing gamers, that's not why we're doing this podcast. We're doing this podcast because we found this game, we really enjoy this game, we love this game, we want to support it. And so that's the primary focus of this, but it also seems disingenuous that if you see us competing and wearing like team jerseys later on, when the game has organized play, that we didn't tell you up front that we also have that competitive, like we want to play in tournaments aspect to our lives as well. So we are members of the same team, but we are also very good friends. Even when Hisho was not in operation, we're always hanging out playing board games, and we thought this was a great opportunity to kind of talk about a game we love and try something new, get out of our shells. My personal motto in life, if you never try or you never ask the question, the answer is always no. So trying new things, though they can be scary, can be rewarding in a lot of great ways. So this is something new for us to try, and hopefully you guys like the format, like we have to say, and continue to watch it. So yeah. And any noise you hear that doesn't get suppressed by the podcast, that is my wonderful 2-year-old daughter Zelina in her playroom next to us. So she is quite excited to see two guys here sitting in front of a microphone talking and yammering their mouths off. So, so expect her to be unofficial commentary during a lot of our episodes. But now getting all that out of the way, let's talk about what got us in the game. So, Steven, I'll let you go first. Tell me about when you first got into tabletop gaming or video gaming in general, how those two coalesced, and what led you to where you are now.
Yeah, definitely. So, I think I've always grown up with video games and tabletop games growing up, Sorry, Monopoly, Yahtzee, those types of games, like, were just very common in our household, family game nights, whenever, it's raining outside or you had a snow day. That's normally like what we would end up using. But, I mean, eventually you play those games, long enough, they get kind of boring, and you're always looking for, I think that next new game that's like pretty unique and really inviting. When I was in high school, I really got involved with, a card game called Magic the Gathering, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. I found the strategy behind, Magic the Gathering to be probably like, I don't know, the most, I guess at the time, like, mentally flexing and, really just giving you, a unique, window into the strategy of some of the most complex games or the complex game decisions. You also have to think about your opponent while also thinking about yourself. So I think that also adds, just another layer of complexity comparative to, maybe some tabletop games that are common that kind of have like a path, like, that this is a one-way path. And I think I'll talk more about like, some things that, I'm looking forward to with this next game, in terms of, paths and the routes you can take. But, really was involved in Magic the Gathering for a long time, and, even tried playing competitives. I would go to game days and, really enjoyed that. I've always kind of had that competitive spirit, whether it was just a simple board game like Monopoly or, a card game like Magic the Gathering.
Right.
I mean, I even played, prior to even Magic the Gathering growing up as a kid, even though, I didn't have a lot of people to play with, but like Yu-Gi-Oh, like loved the anime, huge anime. Right. I'm sure, we're all, good anime fans. And,
yeah, I feel like if you're watching anime, you ended up in two card games. You either love Pokemon and played the Pokemon card game, or you like watched Yu-Gi-Oh and you tried the Yu-Gi-Oh card game out at least once, if not. And then, so yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And I collected both, but never really, kind of played them in competitive aspects. So, aside from Magic the Gathering, but one of my biggest things I loved about at least those card games is, there was a direct route. You knew the rules, at least, based off watching the show. And even if we didn't know much, I think that's kind of what like segued the start into Magic the Gathering. And then our most recent game that we've played, but probably just taken a long hiatus from, maybe indefinitely probably, is Soulforge Fusion. Really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed, how different it was comparative to Magic the Gathering or any of the top 3, trading card games, that have existed. But even aside from that, on the tabletop board game scene too, just really enjoyed, going to, different, what's the one in, Ohio that we have here?
Origins?
Origins, yeah. So I've been going to Origins, for I think it's my second year going to Origins, and really enjoying, like, seeing the new, tabletop games that they have out there. All the new vendors, really had no idea it existed until these past couple of years. So, really nice getting involved with that, but always trying to play, board games. Again, as Alan mentioned, we've, come over, pretty often and hang out and just have, board games with friends and family. And it's really a blast, and then again, like, Alan's, I think Daph, if you just look behind you, like, on these shelves, he's got quite a bit of, board games. So it's really nice and definitely refreshing, to get to play these new games and with fresh eyes. So, that's kind of a little bit about like my experience, but again, super heavy into even, TCG, games that are also in video games. I love card-based games. I think the last one I played was, Midnight Suns on like the PS5. But other than that, it hasn't been, it's been a while since I played.
So are you the guy that always has to collect all the cards in Final Fantasy games for their obligatory card game?
Of course. Yeah, you have to. Or like, those mini games that are like in, I think there was like Assassin's Creed would have like, you get to sit down and play like a chess game with someone and, just stuff like that where it's like, it just really piques my interest. I think I've always been interested in card games and tabletop games because I think too, like, just philosophically in life, just like how cooking and eating together brings people together. I think, board games really does, bring out a side of people that you never really see, in day-to-day life. So I think, board games bring you together, but it also shows, kind of some of the personality, right? Either that competitive spirit or that casual spirit, or, you know, when you get frustrated because you know, you're like, oh, I'm not winning, or when you are, and maybe you get to see it, you know, just that different side, that you haven't seen before. So I really like that about, board games, just because I think it helps, you know, break away from, you know, reality for a little bit, right? We're just, you know, focusing on a game and really just enjoying, the game for what it is, not, you know, anything else outside of that, but also, again, bringing you closer together, right? Because
so, like, this is an observation I've had. Board games in the board game community, whether it's tabletop, like role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, or like board games, take your pick, whether competitive, cooperative, or what have you, or even like card games, be they, again, cooperative, competitive, whatever. Because, in broad generalization, most of us that would consider ourselves nerds or lovers of board games, card games, and the genres that they fall into are very introverted. Not all, some are very extroverted, but I find in my experience in this life, most of us, including myself, are very introverted, and the act of needing 3 more players to play this board game, or 4 more players to get your role-playing night in, or multiple players so you can try playing multiple different decks with your deck in a card game, like Friday Night Magic, as it were, gives you the temptation to leave your introverted nature behind and be extroverted in a narrow subset for a little period of time. So to me, I've always viewed that as our going out to the bar, like, because extroverted people will often go out drinking or whatnot to meet new people, have conversations, and experience life in an extroverted manner. And I feel like that was like the bar in that like scene, or like, not even have to be like the sports bar to see your game in an extroverted manner with other people that are rooting for your team. I feel like this was our version of it. And I'm not saying that we don't, you know, there's many game places you can go to play a board game and drink alcohol or something like that. I'm not saying alcohol isn't like involved or not involved, or required or not required, but I feel like the precursor that gets us to that extroverted moment of socially and communicating and engaging with our community is board games. And so, yeah, I totally agree with you. They're a really good, like, social lubricant, as it were, for introverts. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I like that too, because, like, you know, I mean, I found so many friends, you know, in this hobby, right? Like, just playing board games, meeting new people that I probably would have never, you know, attempted to meet had it not been for board games or card games, as it were. So, and I think too, like, you know, just having those conversations, those relatable conversations, and it's like, oh, I'm not the only one, you know. I think in a lot of ways that's very, you know, critical, you know, especially with that engagement piece. And again, it's something that's fun, something that we all want to do. And it's like, hey, let's return back to this, right? Let's come back to this, right? A game that brings you back. You know, you're going to have those same, you know, encounters. And again, you know, those same reoccurring members that you know, may have just met for the first time. They might become your lifelong friends. You never know. So.
Like, I'd also, like, even take this argument one step further, like, in video games, the games that people remember the most fondly, and the ones that, if you were to have a conversation of, like, greatest games of all time, and people are going to bring back, like, Nintendo or PlayStation or Xbox or things like that, were all games that were social games. Now, I'm not saying social in that you had to be social. I meant that brought people together, like Halo, when you and your friends all got together and like blew each other apart in Halo.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, GoldenEye.
Yeah.
Or like Mario Karts or whatnot, or Mario Parties, like games that brought everyone into the game at one time so you could all play together, not just watch someone else play the game and switch controllers when, you know, because like Mario Brothers is fun, but I'm watching you play until you die and then I get to play as Luigi or vice versa. And you're like, it's not bad and you still have fun with that. But the ones everyone like talks about and still remembers and they still have like reoccurring, like newer versions all the time are these games where you can cooperate with your friends and you can play together at the same time. And, so I think there's a lot to be said that gaming is a communal experience, is a preferred human experience. Like, we as humans like the ability to share what we're doing with other people and watch them enjoying it as much as the enjoyment that we get from doing it.
I agree. Yeah. And it's just, I think it's just such a, testament to games itself, right? Just the definition of a game. And I think too, like, it's something that only through time is it gonna, build that engagement and, not to even like stay on society, right? But, there's, definitely, I think more isolation, over time, where it's like games really do bridge that gap, and you really get to have that social interaction and really feel like, hey, we're all together in this, and
Right.
we get to experience it together, right? At the end of the day, it's together. It's what's bringing us closer and closer. As we're also getting to just enjoy ourselves at the same time.
So, right. I mean, that actually made me think of something just off the spur of my head here, because this isn't a thought I've had, but you could even go another step further, like in this chain. What would you call a convention other than people having something that brings them great joy, that they want to experience that enjoyment of a thing with other people? So even solitary things like comic books or TV shows or fandoms have conventions, because at the end of the day, they want to have an experience of their love, of what brings them joy, with other people at the same time enjoying it. So, like, yeah, human nature, again, you want the things that you love, you want it to be not like all the time, but at least you want it to be a somewhat communal experience. You don't want to feel alone in the thing that you love, whether it's a comic book or your favorite TV show or whatever, movies, Like, we'll find a way to have a convention for it and, like, be like, hey, I want to meet other people that like this. Let's all talk about our favorite things. Let's enjoy this together. So, yeah, just thinking of that, I was like, cause I thought about, like, my brain was, like, going and it connected Origins to that. And I'm like, you know what? Holy crap. Like, conventions are literally an extension of this, like, need to communally, like, share our love with others that are of like minds or would bring similar enjoyment, and watch that enjoyment in others as much as ourselves. So I think that's pretty, and like I said, I just had that, so I'm processing it right now as I'm speaking it out loud, but that's, yeah.
I think you brought up a memory. Just even, it's a good example of community. When I was, in middle school, we had a teacher who was really passionate about games, and he decided, after school, like, hey, let's have a gamers club, whether that's video games, whether that's card games, board games, any tabletop game. And we would be like every Wednesday, after school, again, with parents' approval and everything, we would, stay after for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and everyone would kind of disperse into the things they like, whether that was video games, board games, whatever card games are out there.
Right.
That's actually kind of where I started playing, like, Magic the Gathering for the first time, and got exposed to it, just watching and observing people play it, but also too really getting the feel for community, like, hey, we're all in this together, meeting up after school and really getting to hang out with like-minded individuals, or even people you didn't even know, like, were into games like that. So people were just like, hey, like, for the first time, you get to have that interaction, and
Exactly.
It's really nice to see too, like, even if I'm not like super into video games as much as tabletop games, right, someone else can go off and do that. And then, hey, if they're tired of video games right now, hey, let's go watch this game that someone else is playing, and let's see why maybe they're liking this game so much. And then you get to see, like, even in interactions, just observing people, right? If someone's winning and you're like, how, like, oh, everyone's like, oh, like, going on, you're like, what is happening? And it's like, oh, he just did some crazy thing. And you're like, oh, like, you got to bear witness to that, even if you don't understand entirely what's going on initially. It's just really cool to take part in that together as a community. And,
Right.
I don't know, that just kind of like sparks a memory for me of, like, yeah, like, it's bringing us, again, together in that community aspect of it.
Right.
And you're not alone. You're,
Like, my 11-year-old daughter, really loves Minecraft, and so does my wife. And they're very artistic people, but again, like I've stated before, and Steven has admitted, we're both very competitive people. So even though I love watching the joy on their faces as they play, Minecraft is not something I could ever really get into because there's no winner. Like, there's nothing that I could actively be doing to go, I'm winning this game. Like, I need that competitive, like, am I getting better? Can I gauge how well I'm doing this? Like, you're just supposed to be enjoying the moment. It's almost like golf, except you can be competitive in golf. Yeah. But I mean, like, the original purpose of golf is that you're supposed to be whacking the ball around and having a nice walk through a beautiful landscape. And that the ball and the game itself is technically, even though we made it competitive, supposed to be secondary to the experience of that. Just like you could have competitive hiking at the end of the day, if you came up with a game for it, you know, who can hike the best, but that's not the original purpose of it. The purpose is to go and see nature and walk around and be one and meditative with nature. But so I get what they do and their enjoyment and seeing it, and it brings joy to me to watch them enjoying them in that moment. But, like you said, doesn't mean you can necessarily agree with it or see fully like it worked for you, but you're happy to see the enjoyment in others enjoying something.
Exactly. Yeah. And the biggest thing with that too, like, there's just so much, personality in that there's Minecraft and that there's, other games like Call of Duty.
Thank you.
Where with Minecraft, there's just so much, creativity and artistry to it. Whereas like, I'm not a creative person and my girlfriend can attest, like, I don't play Minecraft. I don't like Minecraft, but she loves it. And it's something where like, hey, like, we're all different, but, for me, I'm definitely more goal oriented, and I think we're definitely that way. Like, can I beat Alan? Can I beat my best friend over here? Is it just more of like, I just want to relax and, build something that looks really cool and maybe that's the long-term goal. But I think, for me, I even sometimes get caught up in the, it's a journey, not a destination sometimes. But I think when it comes to that goal, that goal oriented, it's like, I just want to beat Alan. Yes, there's going to be a journey to get there. Maybe not. We'll see. But I just really want to, beat my opponent. And, I think that's too where it's like we both have that same, he's got that same goal on me. So how can I prevent, that journey, or how can I make it even more treacherous and rocky to beat me and vice versa? So I like that too. Like, even though, like, obviously I'm not like, it's all, metaphorical, or I'm not like physically, harming Alan, right? I want him to be, quaking in his boots a little bit, shaking in his boots, just, trying to get, to that ultimate goal. So, there's a lot of fun in that. I mean, you can even see in our smiles, right? Like, it's just something that, I think it's just a, common truth, despite it all. But yeah, like, Minecraft is definitely, not my cup of tea. I like to, feel like I've achieved something, and again, as an opponent, right? Especially, just knowing Alan, like, he's a tough opponent to beat. He knows his stuff well. So, it's very, rewarding when you get to, actually beat him. So.
And another reason this podcast is I was interested in doing this with my friend, Steven, is I'm in my 40s. I'm 42, going on, 40. No, I'll be 42 this year. Sorry, I was thinking I was going to turn 43. I'm already shorting myself at this point. And my friend Steven, you're in your 20s. So there is quite an age gap between the two of us. But like, to me, and I'll go into details later about that, but when I was growing up and in my 20s, all my friends were in their 30s and 40s too, because that was who was like professionally gaming at the time and whatnot. So, I had friends my own age, but a lot of them were in their 20s. They were wanting to go out and party and stuff like that. And the guys that had already settled down and had kids in their 30s and 40s, those are the ones that wanted to play board games and card games all the time. So I would find myself with them more often than not. So ironically now it's juxtaposed opposite that. So now I'm the guy in my 40s, but that way, I hope that you'll get two like errors of understanding, because you're going to have someone from their 20s talking about their views on gaming and what they're seeing and going. And then you have someone like me. So I guess I'll start off with my gaming. I started learning chess. My dad taught me chess because he was a chess player, when I was 5. And then when I was 12, I started going around playing tournaments all over. And, I did that till I was about 19 when I retired from trying to play in tournaments. But even before I retired from that, I want to say about 16, I saw, like, I think I was at 16, I was at the very first Super Nationals tournament, which is a national championship for the U.S. National Championship in chess. And they call it the Super Nationals. It was the very first one because normally, like, the elementary school national championship, the middle school, and the high school would all be at different dates at different places. There's no, need to try to house them all under one roof. But they got this idea, what if we try to do that one time? Just had this super humongous world, national chess tournament, national chess championship for the U.S. that everywhere from kindergarten up to 12th grade would all meet at one time during 1 week and have this like super almost like Gen Con level convention of chess playing. And, vendors would be there selling chess products, and you get lectures from like grandmasters and stuff, signing autographs, and it was just going to be this huge celebration of chess. And it was in Knoxville, Tennessee at that time. And I took my, middle school, chess club, there, and we all competed in it together and had a glorious fun time for that week. But I noticed that a lot of kids, because, when you got that many kids of all nations, started playing this new and up-and-coming card game called Magic the Gathering. And when I mean new and up-and-coming, like, it was only like a year or two old because, again, I'm 40, guys. So, yeah. So I started getting into it, and I want to say, like, Urza's Legacy, like, within the first, bit of the game. And, I got into it, and I would play... I'd say competitively, but as much competitively as you can as a kid with a limited budget. So it wasn't like my decks were $500 decks or anything like that. And there was no real secondary market at the time either. You literally had to rely on trading cards or just spending buckets of money on boosters. So even though I played, and even though I went to like Friday Night Magics at my local game stores, because one thing about, and my guys from the Southeast will all attest to, you got about an hour between game stores. You don't ever have a city with like 2 card stores in like the Southeast. And if you do, it's like Atlanta, where it's like a super huge city that exists in the Southeast as a exception to the rule, but not the rule itself.
Exactly.
So like if you were like in some small podunk town, like my grandparents were all from rural Alabama, and I lived all through the Southeast. You'd be in small towns, and at best, you hope that Walmart carried something, which it didn't back then. I know they all got cool board games now, and they're trying to be like a game store, but they didn't back then. They did not. You got Monopoly, or sorry, that was all Walmart had for you. They did not have anything for you. So you would drive 30 to 40 minutes sometimes just to get to a community. And as a kid, you really had to put the pin screws on your parents on that one. Like, please, mom and dad, I really want to go and play with these guys. And, they would be slightly leery about the concept in and of themselves, because it's like, hey, mom and dad, I want to go to this like 30, 40 minute drive that you're going to take me on to put me in a room with a bunch of 30-year-olds, even though I'm like 15, which just kind of seems weird to begin with. But I want to hang out with these 30-year-olds because I think they're cool. Like, you're already wondering what kind of cult your kid's subscribing to, I'm sure, at that point. So I don't know. But, I played Magic. Then, I met my best friend, and amazing individual, John Guyenfort, when, we moved to Shreveport, Louisiana, who was a chess player himself. but also like card games and miniatures games. He's a big miniature games guy now. He plays like Warhammer 40K, things like that. So he's big on the hobby aspect too. He's an amazing painter. I can't paint. When I play these games, I'm like, you have to paint my models, or I'm going to pay someone else to do it, or they're just going to be unpainted. I like the aspect of playing them. Hobby? No. That just needs to be done by someone else. Just give me the dice and the models and I'll play the game. I'll try to be good at the game, but don't expect me to enjoy any hobby aspect of it. No offense to anyone that does. I love you guys and your patience and creativity, but this is that Minecraft argument again. Like, I'm goal oriented. I want to play the game and get better at the game. Sitting around and painting something painstakingly small. No patience for that. No patience at all. It's not in me. But anyway, he got into this game called Legend of the Five Rings. And, this is the AEG version that was a CCG back before, FFG bought it and released it as an LCG. And it was, first off, I had a love for Japanese culture. Anime, art, music, the language itself, the samurai culture and their history and whatnot. 'Cause I was a big history buff. My dad and I spent lots of time watching the History Channel back in the days when MTV was music videos and History Channel was actually history and not stories of the Loch Ness Monster and reality programming. So we watched a ton of history and like learning the history of feudal Japan alongside like World War I and World War II and European history, and wars, was very intriguing to me. So here's this card game that, yes, is pure fantasy, but it's rooted in the samurai culture. You have these like different samurai clans that are all fighting each other and each have their own like personality and goals and ways they go about things. And if you play this card game, you would pick a faction and you would play it. And your wins and how well you did in the tournament season actually dictated the story that was being written. So you were in control of the story. And that moved me over from Magic the Gathering at the time because it felt like, to me, I felt like I had more involvement with the game on like a level. It wasn't just, I'm giving you my money, you give me the cards, then I give you more money to go to a tournament and try to prove I'm better than everyone else. That's all still happening. But then I also felt like the act of me going to these tournaments to get better at the game would then in turn like have a real world effect on things that were coming out for and were being published for historians years, hundreds of years from now. Look at this weird game these kids would play and here's the story behind it. And they would read this story about like this clan did this thing and I don't know if information would survive as there was this guy named Alan Jones that won this tournament. That's why this clan did this thing. But at least in my mind, it was like some form of longevity that I was doing something that spurned something that had permanence to it. And I loved that concept with it. It really dug deep into me. And then of course, I played that heavy with my friends when I moved to Nashville, and we went to many tournaments, many world championships, many national championships. I won quite a few, lost probably as much, if not more, but had fun along the way. The number of times we would all get done with our shifts at like Applebee's and Pizza Hut, and then we'd all hop in a car, drive 8 hours to like Detroit to compete in a regional championship, spend all day playing a card game, then drive 8 hours back, like switching off who was riding, who was sleeping in the car. Like, that's one of the things, it's the journey, not the destination. Those parts I still remember to this day, like, fondly. So, like I said, when I was 19, I would drop chess. I still, and by drop chess, I mean not like spending 40 hours a week studying, processing, playing, trying to get better at it. I play it just friendly occasionally with friends now. I quit competing entirely and focusing that hard on it. By then I had moved to L5R. I did that until L5R quit kind of being a thing, with AEG. And then I went back to Magic because to me, it just seemed like the logical progression. This is the point where I start spending $500 on decks and competing at the higher levels, like trying to get my spot in the Pro Tour. I almost succeed one time. I made a deal with my then wife that if I didn't make the Pro Tour in a year, that I would quit trying. I did not. I got very, very, very close, like one win off from competing with a Star City Games Open, I think it was. And this is about like Return to Ravnica time period, I want to say.
That's about the time I started, so yeah.
I had this Rakdos, like black-red, like Rush deck that was pretty gross.
Rakdos was my guild to start.
Or maybe the one that won. I know I always play aggro. Full disclosure, when it comes to a tournament, I don't want to play control because I don't want every game going to time, being exhausted mentally, and then immediately going into another competitive game. Give me an aggro deck. We're going to see who wins or loses in 30 minutes. And then I'm going to take a nice 30-minute break to go over the game in my head, drink some fluids, rest my eyes, lay back, and then I'll get another professional game. To me, that's the way I want to handle it because I don't want to like be killing myself every match and then it just be that much more of a stamina contest. So, I don't think it was the black-red deck. I think it might have been red-green Gruul at that point.
Green Gruul.
Because of that, one card that was like red-green hybrid.
Oh, yeah.
2 for a 2/2 that came into play, but then it like gave you 2 back or something.
Oh, yeah.
It was,
yeah, there's like such crazy comp.
Yeah. You would play the boar in that and like already on turn 3, you're like swinging like 10.
Yeah.
Like threat no more. It was freaking ridiculous.
Those were the good days. I missed Return to Ravnica. It was a great
set. And Theros wasn't bad. But it started going down after Theros, I would say.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, then, I graduated college because I ended up going to college later in my, 30s, graduated like, after that. And then I got a job with a Japanese company. I graduated with a degree in theoretical mathematics and Japanese language. I decided to actually pick up the language from the culture that I loved so much. During that time period of college, FFG bought the rights from AEG for Legend of the Five Rings. They were going to reboot the whole game as a living card game. Now, prior to that, I started picking up living card games because the concept of them I loved. I pay this much money, and it came out to start the game, get the core set, you paid $120. It was $40, but that only gave you 1 card of the entire playset. Mm-hmm. And you needed up to 3 for deck building. So what it did is it let you pay $40, see if you liked it. Then if you did and you wanted the full playset, you buy 2 more core sets and get up to a full playset of the game at $120. I personally like and we'll get into it a later episode about what, Earthborn's doing and all that, the way they did it. But I could see that lower price point being an incentive, but at the same time, it was kind of frustrating because if you come to a local game store and you see me and another dude playing like this game, you're like, oh, that's amazing. What do you gotta do? You gotta go, oh, you just gotta buy a core set. Times 3. You're like, well, why can't I just buy, like, why don't they put it all in one thing and let me just purchase it? Why do I need to buy 3 of the product? Like, why is it separated and I gotta buy it 3 times? Like, so I can see either argument. I'm not here to like get into the finer points of that, but you would spend about $120, which, as you and I both know as professional card gamers, is ridiculous. Because again, you heard me say earlier, $500 for a deck. And that's not the full playset of the game, just enough to have a deck, which is maybe a minuscule portion of the game. Just a competitive minuscule portion, but minuscule nonetheless. And then when a new set comes out, I probably need to spend another $100 to keep the deck floating unless the deck's dead on arrival. At which point I need to sell those cards for what they're worth. If I hope to get some money back from them, then turn that money towards another $500 deck, and then cover the cost that whatever those cards were worth, plus whatever I need to get further. So $120 I have all the cards. I could make infinite decks because I have every card that's ever existed in the game, and enough of those cards to be a full play set of whatever I need, competitively speaking. It was ridiculous. And then expansions would come out, and they would Again, I liked and didn't like it. They would split the expansion between 6 months of release.
Yeah.
They would release 1/6 of it a month for 6 months at $15 a pop. So again, you feel like, oh, that's not bad. At $15 a month, that's a Netflix subscription back when it was freaking cheap.
Yeah.
And you just pay $15. You get like a small little like pack of cards, full play set. You didn't have to buy multiples of these. They were at least smart enough for that. And over the 6 months, you would complete that set. And so let's see, 6. So every 2 is 30. So 30, 90, 30, 60, 90. So yeah, about $100 for an expansion. So keeping it around that $100 price tag, $120. Which wasn't bad either, because again, like I said, when a new expansion came out, assuming my deck wasn't null and void, all I needed was the new cool cards to add to it, I'd still be looking at $200, $200. So keeping in line to being very fair, overly fair in comparison to competitive card games. And the problems came with the lack of rotation. So like Magic the Gathering, knowing that they're going to be charging you an arm and a leg for this stuff, they rotate stuff out. So at least they can go, well, you only need like the last, I can't remember what rotation is, but let's just say the last 4 sets. You only need the last 4 sets at a given time. This allows powerful cards to slump off, and that's what could kill your deck. Your new set comes out, the last set comes on, half of your cards in your deck were from that previous set. It's no longer standard legal. Congratulations, your deck's dead. But at the same time, if I was a new player, I knew I only got to worry about stuff that came out in like the last 2 years, which is cool. I get that they were trying to be happy to the players, and I do not warrant FFG at all for this decision, but it did create a problem called what we called bloat.
Yeah.
Because eventually you see me playing a game and I tell you, well, what do I need to do that? I tell you, you got to buy the cores. And you go, okay, well, what do I need to do to be competitive? What do I need to do to have all the cards to be a competitive player in the highest level of tournaments? I go, oh, well, the game's been out for 4 years. So now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, $100 expansions worth of cards. The 120, all of a sudden you're looking at like $1,000. Now, granted, it's for like a ton of cards, all play-setted, but it's still an $800 buy-in.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, that's too rich for my blood, and it can create a barrier. Also, I would like, because I'd like, as you can see here, we have the hub world set up here, but we also have a game that I've been working on. It's a card game that I've been working on the beta for and been testing things out for. So I like game design, and I can't imagine that from a game design perspective, if none of your cards flit out, you're constrained, because now you have to look over all these cards and make sure a single card you want to create doesn't like somehow like destroy the game, because you got like 4 years worth of development that's just sitting there still legal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's like, you know, that's when you need AI to, you know, at that point.
So, but anyway, so that's LCGs. For those of you that have never played an LCG, I'm sorry for that extremely long-winded conversation that's supposed to be about me and my love of games, but I thought it was important. So, but I love the idea, because I was like, I could convince my wife that it was okay for me to spend $15 a month and $120 up front to play this competitive game, versus what I had to convince her to like be okay with Magic the Gathering, right?
Yeah.
But this is this is all
huge cost reducer.
Yeah. So we were good. So I started with like Star Wars, the living card game. They had one of those, and it was really cool. I will admit that I made the smuggler deck that everyone hated, for those that actually played that game. They made this card that like let you bypass defenses, because they were the smugglers, so they were like Han Solo is evading capture, and you just made this hyper aggressive deck that was just like, anything you do, I'm just gonna go whoop, whoop, whoop. And you just did that like so fast.
I can't do anything.
You can't do anything. I'm just watching you just like taunts around me and like.
Yeah, that was.
So, that was a whole thing. Actually, I'm going to throw someone under the bus for this. I will thank Team Covenant for that one. I love the guys. I met them when they first got started. I've been buying their like product and like listening to their podcast. In fact, you want to not believe me or you want to put me to the test, watch the Covenant podcast, get their view count up for the original 50 episodes. You're probably going to see me as the question of the day on like 30 of those. So like, that's how much I was watching their podcast and engaging with those guys. They're great guys. But yeah, I think it was Zach that posted this deck that was like broken. And I was like, oh, let me try that. We were playing it at the college student union building at the time. And I was like, oh yeah, baby, this is some good stuff. And so I was hooked from that. But I moved from that one to another LCG, and it was my favorite one. Unfortunately, the license got yanked, so they had to stop making it. And that was actually the Warhammer 40K LCG. It was so much fun. You had 7 planets and you would put like, I think it was 5. It's been so long, my brain's harassing me on this information, so I don't want to misrepresent because I love this game so much. You'd start with 5, then every turn the top planet would fall off and get scored, and then you'd reveal one of the other ones. So the game could only last 7 turns. And you would deploy units on the planets from your hand, like you were setting up your troops in a game of 40K, and they all, you had the factions, you had all the factions from 40K, so there was like 10 playable factions in this game. Like you had the Tau, you had the Space Marines, you had the Eldar, you had the Imperial Guard. Like it literally felt like a game of 40K, but in a card game form.
Wow. And
you had this like commander that could get killed. I know you're seeing a lot of similarities. I took some things I liked from that for my own one because I love this game so much. But what was cool is because when you scored the first planet, and there could either be 3 symbols like red, green, blue. And the first person to collect 3 color symbols from the planets, so 3 blue, 3 green, or 3 red, and I could be misrepresenting any of this information. This is long ago. Apologies if I do. But the first person that collected that would win. So you'd only score the first planet. The other ones would give you resources like card draw or like money or stuff like that to afford. So there was reasons you would fight over the other ones, but you also had to be concerned about the first one. But because you need 3 of a color, not all the planets agreed, and you would shuffle them up randomly. So the planet pattern every game was different because you didn't know what 5 of the 7 would be revealed and in what order, right? So one might be green, red, the next one red, blue, and then the next one green, blue, So if I'm looking and go, well, this turn green, blue is going to score. I need 3 red. I got 2 red, so I could care less about that planet. My opponent has 1 green, 1 blue. I could let them have that planet. I might fight for it. I don't know why, but you might have a reason to, but
right.
You could incentivize and prioritize based off the colors you saw. And because you saw 5 planets, you knew, okay, next turn, he can't, he's going to try to win that winner. And you can kind of prioritize the turns as they would come up because you knew what colors were kind of coming down the conveyor belt, as it were.
Right.
So,
but there was some variability to that, right? Because you didn't know what was coming, right?
Like the 6th and 7th one, you didn't see immediately, but at the same time, like you don't know what's going to happen each turn. But if I'm looking at the initial flop of 5 of the 7, and I see like red, green, blue, red, green, I know that the first win opportunity is to win 1, 2, and 4. So on turns 1 and 2, if someone wins both of those, then they can't win on turn 4 or they've won the game.
That makes sense.
So like you would kind of be able to come up with your strategy for that. Because, if your deck takes longer to build, you're going to be like, well, I'll let them win to a certain degree while I'm building up my defenses on these later planets. And that's where I'll stop them. And that's where it turns in my favor. Or if you're more of an aggressive deck, you're like, where's the first win opportunity? Let's just shoot for that.
Yeah.
Like, on turns 1, 3, and 4. Okay, 1, 3, and 4, those planets, everything's deploying there. I could give a crap less. So it was a lot of fun. So you would send your warlord into battle to one of the planets using a dial with 1 to 5. And then he would go and represent he's a big burly guy, just like your HQs in Warhammer, but you also don't want them to get murdered because so you have to protect them, but they're also a huge thing, almost like Commander in Magic. And, whenever you score that planet, all the units that were there go to your barracks or your home. And then the next time your Warlord assigns to a planet, he brings those units with him and they come with him and dogpile in. They're like his cadre for that turn.
Yeah.
So if I know I'm winning on 1, 2, and 4, I play maybe a little more heavier on 1 because I know those come off. And then when I go to 2, those guys slam in with my HQ. And the guys I've already deployed, they're making it kind of almost like trying to snowball in.
It's like compounding
the interest, if you will. So yeah. So that was really cool. I had actually won multiple regionals, and when I went to an international tournament for Canada, they announced that morning that the game was going to get canceled because they lost the license for it. So I literally switched the deck that I've been winning all the tournaments with and started playing just fun decks. It's like, I'm going out with a bang. I'm going to play the janky stuff I knew probably wouldn't. The combo decks that the Timmys play, I want to get this combo deck and win one turn.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to have fun on this glass Terra, so let's just do this, right? I went to Gen Con, completed in the international tournament for it. I think I'm top 24 that, but I didn't get past that. I should have played Dark Eldar at the time. They had this card, which was like I'm going to put this in Magic terms so my friend can get this here. It had flash, so you could just put it in an instant speed.
Oh, wow.
But it was a body, and it was like a 4/4 body, so that'd be equivocal to being like almost like a 4/4 in Magic. So not like huge, but not a weenie, like a body. I think he was a 4/3, but still, regardless. And then it said, when he comes into play, literally target an opponent at this battle, an opponent's enemy character. And I don't remember if there was restrictions. If the restrictions were there, it was minuscule at best. Kill that unit. Cause like, instant speed, dude comes in, that dude dies, and I got a 4/4 sitting in front of you. It was like, what the ever living hell? It was, I knew that card was gonna break the environment, but I was like so at the time determined to be loyalist with Space Marines that I was gonna try to use this deck that I thought had good chances against them. Got smoked by that card. Cause you could immediately, because that all that stuff was instant, putting the body in and killing the dude, that you got to do that, then you got to tap the dude to attack one of their dudes and possibly kill them. So it almost like 2-for-1s the second it's in play. Then you got to kill it, because the way the combat worked is after you're done tapping all your dudes and you both pass, you untap all your dudes. Your opponent has the chance to retreat, or you keep fighting. So that dude's going to still be tapping until you give up. So it's not even like this is like, oh, he gets the 2-for-1 and then next turn he might do something. You're going to keep going. Like, it was an oppressive, like, thing.
So you break him.
Yeah, until you break him, he's going to keep, like, slugging. So it was gross as hell. Anyway, so I got smoked by that. After that, I played L5R, like I said, the LCG, joined the Dragon Clan, became a pro, which they called Hatamoto, of the Dragon Clan, competed in multiple worlds for that, with Team Isho. A lot of us were Hatamotos. I want to say 4 out of the 5 got their Hatamoto titles, pro player titles for the game at the time. Then COVID happened. The game dies, with so many card games dying during COVID because no one wanted to buy games because there's no ability to play each other because we're all locked indoors. So I hated it very much. I love that game so hard. And yes, sweetie, why don't you drop that off right there? Thank you. Yeah, you can drop it. It's okay. Please. Thank you, sweetie. So, yeah, informal commentary there. So, then I started working at Amazon, where I met my friend here, Steven. We became very good friends in a short period of time. And this new game was coming out, which is a unique deck game by Richard Garfield and Stoneblade Entertainment, called Soul Force Fusion, which was going to work like Keyforge, but was like Keyforge plus one, whereas Keyforge you got one deck, and you had, because it was only one deck, it was like, is this deck good or bad? It was just a quick, observable observation. But this one, you needed 2 unique decks that were generated by AI, and you would put them together, and the combination would be your deck. So it's almost like 2-color Magic, the unique deck game. And it made it a little harder to judge, because a good deck can be a good deck, but if you can't find the right pairing for it, it's a mute point. Like, I could have the coolest one deck here, but if whatever I put it with is never works and the combination can never get itself off the ground, it doesn't really come to much. So, got really into that. I thought this was going to be a huge thing. It turned out not to be. Ultimately, the game's still going on as far as I know. The problem we had with it is it wanted to focus on digital first. And as you heard this long-winded explanation earlier about, what we like in gaming, the idea that whatever you bought was in a digital format so you could play digital games and get better at the game, great. That's your focus instead of meeting people in front of each other and having a social experience, bad. If that's secondary, we're out because we want that social experience. I don't mind digital card games for what they are, and I don't mind people that enjoy them. Again, the Minecraft thing, if you're enjoying it, great. But for us, it's a social experience. If you have a digital component where I can play your games online, great, because I can use that to get reps in and get better at the game. But to me, it also needs to be like Soul 40. It doesn't need to be like Magic, where I have to buy all the cards that I have physically and then buy them digitally, and those two are not in agreement, much less the cards may not be in agreement, because I think they do different bans and erratas on Arena that they don't do in real life. So it needs to be an exact carbon copy. The purpose of digital to me, what would get me into a digital space, is if it allows me, when I can't get to a local community, to get my reps in against high quality players, to get better at competitive play, then I can use that as a medium to find highly competitive people around the U.S., create a group where we all practice and hone our skills against each other to get better at the game. That is the furthest I want to take a digital format of it, because at the end of the day, I still want to go to tournaments. I still want to go to my local communities. I still want to engage with people and enjoy the game face to face. And no amount of digital play will ever be, as, in my opinion, and this is a hot take, as good as in front play, because when you're not seeing your opponent, when you're got that anonymity, even if you're using webcams, you can see their face, there's a whole set of things you're missing that make it harder and more rewarding to play in person face. The way he's shuffling his cards, the way he's moving his feet, that I can tell he might be nervous or not, body tells, the act of playing in front of all these people standing around staring at you while you're playing on the top matches. All these things, I think, add a whole nother element, in good or bad. Like, I think it's good, but I could understand you might not. That makes it more engaging and more difficult, but more rewarding when you do succeed.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I know I've been in tournaments where, again, the pressure's on, this is the final game, and, you feel that pressure so much. I mean, I think for me personally, it's a good testament to, can you handle the pressure? Can you handle the stress? And again, it just makes that achievement, just that much more rewarding, especially if you can get through that, the psychology of it, good or bad, right? Especially if, if you're on the ropes, and, how can I turn this around? How can I, eke a win in, or how can I, get past this assault, on things. So I think that's kind of the biggest, element to it, especially playing in person, which I love so much, despite even if it is slightly more stressful.
Right.
So
I think it helps, there's been articles out talking about if you play World of Warcraft or you play Dungeons and Dragons, it makes you better in your professional career because it teaches you things like how to prioritize people working together in a group, how to handle group projects, how to manage people if you're a constant DM for your games, if you're the leader for your clan, how to manage a group of people with different goals, interests going into a thing, and I think that card games are a good trainer for handling pressure, understanding that a loss is just a loss, that it teaches you to become better. The act of trying to get better at a game, competitively, I think teaches you fundamentals you're going to fail. In fact, you start looking forward to losing.
Yeah.
More than you do winning. Winning's fun, but you don't get better if you always win. There's no incentive to do anything different than what you're doing if you're always winning. Shaq didn't all of a sudden, Michael Jordan didn't all of a sudden just decide, I'm going to quit dunking because I win every game. for the Bulls. No, he just kept dunking and you couldn't stop him. Like,
It's true.
like, until people developed a strategy to handle Jordan, and even then that only went so far. Like, he just kept doing the exact same thing, and everyone was like, well, how the hell do we handle that? Because he's winning accolades, he's making tons of money. What incentive does he have to stop dunking on people? None. It's when you lose that you have to go, okay, why did I lose? What did I make a mistake? Was it just bad luck? And it's easy to just always say, well, it's just bad luck. I just didn't draw the cards I need. Always get rid of that ego first.
You have to.
There's sometimes that is involved. Like, cause like I can literally in games go, I'm about to make a play and this is guaranteed to win me the entire tournament. This is the last final game. We're playing for the championship first place spot. I'm about to do a play that's risky. He's going to draw one card. I know there's only one card in that deck of like 40 cards that can stop me. He's drawn 2 of the 4 of those cards. So there's 2 left. So 2 chances out of 40. So a 1 in 20 chance that the card he draws is the card that's going to screw me and I'm going to lose. But I'm going to take that 1 in 20 chance because there's 19 in 20. He doesn't draw that card and I'm guaranteed to win the tournament. And I make the bet. He draws that 1 in 20 chance card and then I'm screwed. But I don't feel that was bad because I feel the risk versus reward was there because I had 19 and 20 chances to become the first place champion on that play.
Yeah.
And there was no guarantee that if I let the game, I mean, obviously there's this card that screws me that's 2 and 40. Well, then it's 2 and 39, then 2 and 38. So the longer the game goes on, the higher chances that I get screwed are there. So I felt in that moment that I had the chance at victory. It was worth trying for. Yes, did luck screw me, but it was luck that screwed me would mean realizing the chance of that luck, taking a roll of the dice with it and making that pre-thing. So it was my choice. Yes, he got lucky, but that was because I made the choice knowing that the luck was a part of it. And that's just card games in general. Like, you can't, well, I mean, there's times when you can just be 100% sure of your victory, but most times you'll never be 100% sure of anything.
No.
So, that's always there.
Yeah, and I think that goes for anything in life, I think it's just a good metaphor for life. And, holding off when you know that the odds are going to only increase for maybe that potential card that they need to beat you. It's just, I think early on when I first started, I was very careful. I wanted to always be sure, 100% sure, but again, I had to learn that pretty quickly. Like, hey, this is not going to be, a surefire bet you're going to win. You're just going to need to, go for, that first, direction, go for the win. And if you don't, maybe there's still some time to turn it around, but hey, at the very least you tried, right? And, we're going to try and go for a decisive victory. That's not to say there aren't times you don't stall, a turn or two depending on the circumstances, but at the end of the day, if you see a path and the odds are very high you're going to win, you should be going for it. You shouldn't just hold off, which I think I had learned.
Right. Well, we've already hit over an hour. We were hoping maybe 45 minutes, but I also predicted before we did this first episode that either of us could be long-winded in moments, so that's fine. Perfectly fine. I'm happy you stuck with us if you have, and we're both very grateful for this. Our goals for this podcast, like I said, are to talk about Hub World, our love of Hub World as episodes go on, what we find competitively playing in Hub World, in all the different aspects of this game that we've fallen in love with. So the next episode, we're going to talk about the company behind Hub World. Then after that, probably talk about things like deck building, mechanics, a discussion of lore, and maybe how we will get other people involved in this game. What's our pitch to get new people interested in playing this game in the community building aspect. So we hope you'll look forward to those and stay with us and enjoy what we have to offer. Sorry again for the long-windedness of it, but we're both big gamers and we wanted you to kind of understand where our gaming backgrounds came from. So that way, as we go forward talking about stuff, it kind of gives you the appropriate like shade of color to understand why we say the things we do, or maybe where we're coming from, professionally and mentally and, gamerly, even though that's not a word, going forward. So again, thank you guys very much.
Thanks for listening to Hubcast Padalon. From everyone involved, we appreciate your continued support and wish you a great day and a wonderful week.